Greetings everyone, my name is Zetterville, and welcome to my Let's Try of the Early Access demo of Super Duper Ship 2, an indie vertical space shooter with a twist. You cannot shoot at all. Instead, you need to rely on your ship's ability to slow down time to a crawl when not moving in order to survive. This game is in development by Triple Take. I'll be spending at least 10 to 15 minutes on this title, checking out what it has to offer. And to be fair, the demo's on the smaller side, with only 5 levels available, so I'll likely be completing the entire demo in this video. So let's get right to it and start a new game, shall we? We have 5 missions, as you can see over here, starting from Earth. So let's begin over here. Our mission, of course, is to stop the invasion of all these ships. Starting out with the tutorial mission, where we need to earn our wings and learn how to pilot the Super Duper Ship, which, as I just mentioned, has a quite unique ability that makes it a lot more survivable. So here's a tutorial. I'll be playing the PC version of this game, so you only need to use the mouse for the PC version, left click to move around, and right click in order to use a special ability once you unlock it. So as I just said, time slows to a standstill when you're not moving, but when you move, everything starts to move at a normal speed. Your ship has no defenses whatsoever in terms of guns, so you need to guide all of the missiles and bullets into each other in order to proceed and survive. And because you have the ability to slow down time, it makes it a lot easier to do this. As I showed over there, you're supposed to guide all those missiles into those missile launchers, but for the tutorial, most of these missiles and turrets, well, they'll only fire once before dissipating, excluding the ones over here which are bullet turrets. Here it's illustrating where you need to use the slowdown feature in order to survive, and of course, once you get to the end, you completed the stage. It always seems to be at the top portion of the stage because this is a vertical scroller, but thankfully you can scroll backwards if you want to, outside of the last mission. And of course, in order to unlock new upgrades and new special abilities, you'll need to collect gems throughout each mission. So let's move on to mission 2, but before we do that, let's try an upgrade to help me with the next mission. As you can see here, we have access to 4 upgrades or special abilities we can use. Each of them is more useful in certain characteristics or other ones. The first one we get access to is the teleport. It's the cheapest one after all, and it costs only 1 gem. Now, we can actually experiment with trying out each of the special abilities before we buy them by clicking the try button, which I really appreciate that the dev added, so we don't have to waste gems even though most of these are not really expensive. For the teleport ability, we can teleport by right clicking to the next location. As you can see on the ship itself, we see 3 purple colored bars. Those indicate the number of charges or whatever for your special ability. These will recharge over a period of time, and they will restock, as you can see here. So if you're out of any charge, well, you can't really teleport anymore. And each stock restores every 3 seconds. And while you're teleporting, your ship is immune to damage too. So by doing so, I can now guide the missiles right into the missile launcher and destroy it. It's really useful in a lot of different characteristics. Not to mention, I would say it's the best special ability for speedrunning the game, because you can dash past most enemies with ease. But of course you gotta be a little bit careful though, so you don't end up just teleporting or smashing right into yourself, or end up teleporting right into an enemy, because that happened quite a few times during test recordings, so you gotta be careful. Not to mention, ramming into one of the turrets or the bullets is instant death for you. After all, both the ship and all the turrets are 1 hit point wonders, so you gotta be careful. In some ways, I would say that this game, because of its slowdown feature, is kind of a puzzle game. From the description, the slowdown mechanics were from Electronic Superjoy and from Superhot, or rather inspired by. And eventually, in the final version of the game, we'll have access to temporary items and other new ship types. After all, from the description, this game is originally intended to be a mobile game for the Android and iOS platforms, but I hope it's eventually released for the PC platforms, maybe on Steam, as this is a fun little game. Anyways, we finished the tutorial, so off to mission 2. You're intended to use the teleporter here, but if you don't want to, it's fine. There's a reason for that, which I'll show soon enough. As you can see over here, if I spam my warp ability, I can speedrun the stage very easily. but you gotta be careful so you don't ram into enemies by accident. So I strongly suggest that you at least play the stage once before you use warp dashing in order to complete the stage, or get past the stage faster. Also, be careful of missiles outside your field of view. At least there are attention marks showing when the missiles will be coming towards you, which I do appreciate. So at least there is some advanced warning. I'm trying to destroy these turrets right over here to increase my score. Thankfully, if you really want to, you can ignore most of these turrets as much as possible using your special abilities, but if you do so, you won't get as much of a high score. So there is a higher skill ceiling for the more advanced players who want to do score attacks. But I find the warp and the shield ability to be the best abilities so far, especially the shield ability for less skilled players, which you'll see soon enough. Also, if I really wanted to, I can skip most of these challenges by just using the warp ability, as you can see here. But you gotta be a little bit careful so you don't end up getting stuck in the wall. Thankfully it doesn't instantly kill you or telefrag you, but if you're not careful you can get shunted into an enemy. Well, to be fair, the warp ability was helpful here for guiding the missiles away, but it'll be more useful in Mission 3 for a particular reason, but for each of these new missions, I will be trying out a new ability. Like in this case, I now have enough money for the shield or disruptor, so in this case, I'll show off the shield. So for every one of these special abilities, I will be showing off the tutorial segments at least. So the shield ability, as shown over here with the 3 blue stalks, will create a shield around my ship, and they will protect against all incoming projectiles. And they're shown as the blue charges on my ship, but they recharge at every 5 seconds instead of the 3 seconds like before. So you gotta be a little bit careful. And the shield duration is only 1 second, but you can reset it by just tapping by hitting the right mouse button again. So it is a little bit of a slower paced weapon compared to the warp, where you can restock charges every 3 seconds or so, but it's a lot more useful for newbie players who want to play the game more slowly and more carefully. So I'm going to showcase it in this level. And Mission 3. In this case, we need to break through the asteroid belt in order to reach the enemy base. As I was saying, this game has a nice skill floor in the sense that you have all the special abilities and the fact you can slow down time in order to make the stage as easy or difficult as you want. Because once you get skilled enough, you can effectively go to the stage without slowing down as much. There's a lot of speedrun potential in this game, not to mention you have certain special abilities that are more useful than others for speedrunning, like the shield is more useful for slower paced players, whereas the warp one is much better for faster players. It's a similar situation with the decoy and certain other special weapons, or special abilities I mean. I should have used a shield over there. Thankfully, if you do die, your gems are stored in the current session you had, so if you're having a lot of trouble, you can purchase items eventually when they come out. Maybe like an extra armor piece or something. Also, some gems are worth more than others, like the purple ones are the most valuable. The 5 levels in this demo, I would say they're more tutorial-based levels, at least the first 3. Maybe in the final game we'll have more official levels that are more challenging and not so much of a tutorial. Then again, this game is rather challenging, as you can see here. But thankfully, just like Super Hot and Super Hotline Miami, the time it takes to restart from the next level is rather short, so it isn't that frustrating, thankfully. So restarting missions isn't that frustrating. And of course, some areas require equipment upgrades in order to access them. Like here, you need to use the teleport ability. But because I don't have access to the warp ability, I can't access that gem. You can use the warp ability to access these gems over here, or of course you can use the shield if you really want to as well. I'd rather use the shield because it's a lot safer. You may notice me fidgeting around a little bit over there because I need to make sure that time runs at normal speed so I can actually turn back on my ability, reset my ability as quickly as possible. Here's a segment where the shield works really well. The skill for this game is pretty nice. It's a little bit low for newbie players, but the skill ceiling is high enough for more score attack players. Like here, I could skip past this missile launch if I really want to, but instead I want to get a higher score, so that's why I want to take some extra time. Like here, I really want to get at least one of these missile launchers destroyed, but instead I'll just walk past it because I don't want to waste time waiting for the missiles to get destroyed over and over. But if for players who want more score attack, the option's there. Perhaps in the final game there can be a combo system added, so if players have a lot of finesse and destroy combos of enemies in a single run through, well, they should get more score for that. Alright, on to mission 4, we need to fight off the enemies protecting the black hole. There is no story of this game so far. I'm just speculating based off of the graphics that alien invaders are coming from this warp hole or black hole and we're defending Earth and reaching the alien mothership or something. So, okay, now I'm going to show off the disruptor. The disruptor acts like a flare which confuses nearby missiles. So the disruptor charges are green, but they recharge every 4 seconds, so it's a little bit more of a skilled thing. Like over here, the disruptor slows down enemy bullets and allows it to just destroy these mini projectiles and get extra score that way. It also disables missile tracking, makes it so the missiles will fire in a straight direction, which is awesome because it makes it easier to direct where the missiles are going, as I'll showcase right over here. See, now I set the missile to be firing in a straight line, which is super useful. It can also block lasers like this. This is also a rather useful ability, and it's a little bit more for skilled players in comparison to the shield. The shield is a more defensive utility, better for more novice players, whereas the disruptor is more for advanced players and can be used more offensively, as you can see here, with redirecting bullets and the missiles. But I do like the number of options the devs gave access to for newer players and more advanced players. Like the warp ability as well as the decoy are much more for advanced players. I mean the warp and flare, whereas the decoy and shield are for more novice players. But I'll be showing the decoy in the final mission. Alright, time to show off the disruptor. If I can direct the missile correctly. Or I can just do that when... Wait a minute. Well, for some reason my upgrade got shifted back to teleport. So instead, let's do disruptor again. I probably forgot to change it or something. There we go. I should have paid attention to the fact that it switched to green or a different color. Of course, you can also go by the stage without using a special ability if you're skilled enough. The special abilities are optional after all. I wonder if the dev will add something extra where if you go through a level without using a special ability, you'll get a bonus or something. That would be neat. Almost got it. I'll just ignore it. Whoa, that was way too close over there. Unfortunately, when the lasers come, you can't really destroy them with the missiles because, well, the missiles will get destroyed by the laser. And remember, you can always slow down time as much as possible if you get stuck or feel a bit concerned. Like the disruptor or shield here would be the best for this stage if you're less skilled because you can block all the lasers. I just feel like the warp is for the most advanced speedrunner players, whereas the disruptor would be the best offensive utility, combined with the decoy as well. Once again, I like there's all these options available for players at different skill levels. I want to try destroying this missile turret, of course. Easier said than done, though. Because there is a missile launcher over there, but I need to guide it correctly. And I need to be close enough to it so it actually shoots correctly. And of course, I forgot to mention, if you ram into a missile turret or where a missile turret was before it was destroyed, you'll get killed too. I would have preferred if you destroyed the missile turret, once you go back and ram into the area where the missile turret was, you won't get destroyed. So instead, because I did this already once, I'm just gonna go past this. Wow, it somehow destroyed that missile over there. I mean, we somehow destroyed that laser turret over there. Oh, yikes, that was close as well. Like before, I want to destroy this ballistic turret battery, mainly so I don't get hit by all the projectiles by accident. Of course, there are 2 missile batteries, so you gotta be a little bit on the cautious side. Or of course I can just walk by and ignore it, and ignore it if I really want to. Now we have a more difficult version of the previous challenge. I do like the enemy escalation and challenge progression. As you can see, we started with all those ballistic turrets and now we have the missile launchers that are guided. And remember, don't ram into that square. You'll die instantaneously because there were missile launchers over there. Now on to the final mission. The black hole, or rather, we need to survive an encounter with the enemy mothership. Before that though, let's purchase a decoy, which makes enemies charge after a fake copy of your ship. So let's try it out in the tutorial segment, and then I'll show it off. And for some reason, DN is at the top part of the stage. I think that's a glitch, because all of the other tutorial segments, the end part of the tutorial was at the top part of the stage, but for some reason we start at the top, when in reality, or like the previous stages, we should start at the bottom. It just feels like a discrepancy and an oversight that was left in during debugging. Well, I'll showcase the decoy during the final mission. So let's equip the decoy. Also, for some reason, once you press the try button in one of these tutorials, it'll actually reset you back to teleport. I guess that's what happened earlier during mission 4. Alright, on to the final mission. From what I've seen so far, it's a kind of a boss mission, a proto-boss mission. Also, this is the only mission so far where you cannot move backwards. It's a true vertical scrolling segment. As you can see here with the decoy, the missiles are going to be chasing after the decoy instead of me. Also, we can see the number of charges I have is based off of the pink bar, and I believe it recharges each stock every 6 or 8 seconds. And there's the mothership. Don't ram into any part of it if you want to survive. And it has 6 missile launchers, where I should have paid attention over there. This is the hardest mission in the game, but it's a nice wrap-up of all the challenges we faced so far. In essence, use our special abilities and guide the missiles back into the missile launcher and get to the end. Pretty nice, and it's a nice showcase showing how much you've learned so far of the game. Just gotta be careful with this one. The decoy in this mission isn't the best option. The best option for this mission would definitely be either the disruptor or the shield. Warp is not as useful here because it's auto-scrolling instead of where you can manually scroll faster. And of course, decoy, you have to be careful so you don't end up embedding yourself in the missiles or guiding the missiles into you. Thankfully, you can send the missiles back into each other, which is always hilarious. Okay, 1 down, 5 to go. Never mind, 6 to go. I'm gonna try destroying one on the right side now. Yeah, you can also send the decoys right in the middle of the ship. Oh, and we destroyed the mothership. Awesome. Well, thankfully, these laser turrets eventually dissipate their lasers or turn them off. But as you saw over there, we can actually send a decoy right in the middle of the ship, and for some reason, the missiles, they don't respect the mothership and go pass right through it. Alas, that's the end of the tutorial. We saved Earth by destroying the mothership. But of course, in the final game, we're going to have a lot more missions before we face the mothership. And I suppose the final mothership is going to be a lot tougher in the final game. If anything else, I feel like this would be a nice, perfect second or third boss to get our feet wet. And eventually we'll have a much tougher juggernaut to fight as the final boss with all sorts of lasers, ballistics, missiles, firing the flunky ships, etc. That would be awesome to fight. So overall, I enjoyed playing this early access demo of the game. The 5 missions showcased the nice utilities of the slow motion of the ship. I did like how it's a kind of more of a puzzler in a way, where you have to carefully plan your moves so you survive. But there are a lot of flexibility involved with the upgrades, specifically choosing between the 4 different abilities, which have their own uses and pros and cons. Like for example, the shield is a lot more of a defensive utility, the mostly defensive, and best for novice players, but it really promotes slow turtling approaches. Whereas stuff like the disruptor is a much more offensive weapon, but more for skilled players, similar with the decoy and also with the teleport or warp ability. Because as you saw with the teleport, if you're not careful you can get teleported right into an enemy or teleport right into a missile launcher. This is best for people who already know the stages so far and speedrun it. But I do like all of these different abilities that there are, and each have their own pros and cons, and some levels are better than others for each one of them. And eventually I suppose we'll have items like armor pieces, which are temporary stuff, just for players who are having trouble with some of the levels. And perhaps new ship types, which are either cosmetic, or maybe have their own characteristics like some move faster than others, or have an armor piece by itself. And I did like the more minimalistic graphics. It's really important in games like this where you need to be really cautious of what all projectiles are coming at you, so I really like how each of the enemy projectiles are always red, or have a red trail around them, so you know how to dodge them. And the gameplay loop is pretty tight, and I like the challenge progression and introduction of new gimmicks and whatnot. In the final game, I would like to see a lot more missions and probably a tougher final boss encounter, and perhaps the other features added, and maybe even a time attack mode or some extra incentives for players to combo enemies together for extra score. That would nicely raise the skill ceiling without affecting the skill floor. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day.